Sound is an integral part of any media text, whether it be a Hollywood blockbuster or an online miniseries. The sound is a key area for keeping the audience immersed in the text and can also be used to create a certain mood or have the viewer feel different emotions. In this short commentary, I will be explaining why proper sound is needed for a production, as well as looking at several examples and talking about how they've used sound to their advantage. For me, sound is one of the most overlooked areas when it comes to amateur productions, and with my time studying film, I've learned a great deal about how sound is essential to immerse the viewer in the worlds created within the media text. One example of this is my own production produced in my first year, named Best Intentions.
I got off a wrong stop, do you know where we are?
Yeah, Hongyeon.
Wait, you from around here?
No, sorry mate, I'm staying with a mate.
Can I come with you? I know it's a long shot, but...
Yeah, sure.
Really?
Yeah, why not?
As you can hear and most likely see, the audio in this production is very far from good, even with all the tampering I did to try and get it right. When watching this production, the viewer would hear the difference between the two dialogue tracks and see the audio and video missyncs when the characters were talking. This would throw the viewer out of the situation, and they would be thinking more about the problems with the production rather than listening to the conversation that the characters were in fact having. Another perfect example of this happened just the other day when as a class we tried to watch The Dark Knight Rises, when unfortunately the video would lag behind and we would hear Bane beating Batman senseless with punches that made a sound before he'd even swung. This meant that we didn't feel the impact of each punch because we were completely taken out of the film and the viewing experience. Now, leaving all technical problems aside, we can begin to break down different pieces of media to see how they've used sound to create atmosphere, to set the text pace, or to create hidden meanings when in juxtaposition with the visuals. And the first example I want to give is Down to the Cellar, an experimental film by Jan Svankmajer from 1983. When watching this production, you may get a little confused, but you can definitely see how the film has used sound to enhance different areas and to give personality to animated objects which are in fact lifeless. One example of this can be seen when the girl drops her croissant and a pack of wild shoe dogs begin a feeding frenzy. As this film uses captured sound instead of using the actual sound that would have taken place, this means that the sounds don't have to be the literal sounds, but can in fact be interpretations of that sound, meaning that these can be highly over-exaggerated. This will bring attention to each sound and will create a sense of tension within the scene, as the viewer will be trying to detect where each sound is coming from and what is in fact making that sound. The second example I have used is the film Seven, directed by David Fincher in 1995. And rather than list off every sequence in the film where I found sound to be an integral piece of the scene, I will just name a few and explain why it had such an impact with the viewer. Just 3 minutes into the film, we have a short scene which may seem irrelevant, but in fact tells us a lot about Morgan Freeman's character, Detective Somerset. In this sequence, we can hear the ambient noise of barking dogs, screeching cars and blaring alarms in a thriving city. This is then taken over by the ticking of the metronome that Somerset flicks. This is showing that no matter what, he has always had a way of shutting his mind off from the outside world. This is then taken away from him as he becomes more stressed with his current case and he breaks the device in anger because it no longer works for him. Later in the film, the viewers are treated to a nice jump scare just to make sure that they are in fact paying attention. This will be achieved by creating a false sense of security within the scene so the viewer thinks that nothing will happen. Then by making everything very quiet within the scene, it's more of a shock when both sound effects and the score suddenly become louder.
He's laughing at us. You got what you deserved. He's alive! Tucker's alive!
How's this for culture?
One of my favourite scenes within the film is when Detective Somerset visits the library and Detective Mills is looking through the case's evidence. Firstly, the scene has a great back and forth between Somerset and the security guards that are beginning a game of poker. Somerset wonders why they are turning their back on the knowledge within the library, which I feel is a great metaphor for people not only turning their back on knowledge, but also for the crime scene in today's world, which is probably one of the most important themes put forward within this film. I do also like the choice of music used in this scene, as we are seeing images from the murders within the film and they are accompanied by an orchestral suite from Bach. This gives a very eerie feel, as you don't tend to relate such serenading music with murder and the 7 deadly sins. The music choice may also be used to make the audience appreciate the artistic view within the murders. This gives the murders a graceful style comparable to the film Silence of the Lambs and the character Hannibal, who can be seen as an educated and cultured character as well as being a murdering face-wearing psychopath. The final area of 7 I will be talking about is the ending and its build-up, as when we see Doe talking to Mills in the police car, we can hear a soundtrack that uses elite motive similar to that of the iconic Jaws
I seem
scene.
to remember breaking your face. You're only alive because I didn't kill you.
Okay, sit back.
I spared you.
Sit back!
Remember that, Detective, every time you look in the mirror at that face of yours for the rest of your life. Or should I say, for the rest of what life
Sit
I've
back.
allowed you to have.
Sit back, you fucking freak! Shut your fucking mouth!
So, as Mills gets increasingly aggravated and the ending is coming ever closer, this is comparable to Jaws when the threat of the shark moves closer to its helpless victim. This will make the audience feel how aggravated Mills is becoming, but they will also begin to fear what lies ahead and know that not everything is going to be a simple happy ending. Finally, when the last piece of the puzzle is revealed, the soundtrack becomes very dark and dramatic, with the sudden realization that Mills just lost his wife and unborn child to the hands of this madman.
You murder a suspect, David.
No!
Just throw it all away if you know.
No!
She begged for her life, Detective.
Shut up!
She begged for her life.
Shut up.
And for the life of the baby inside of her.
Shut up!
The third film I'm using for reference is Watchmen, directed by Zack Snyder, who also directed 300 and Sucker Punch, which are 2 films that are highly regarded for their soundtrack and use of sound effects, and Watchmen is no different. Firstly, the film's soundtrack features songs from the likes of Simon and Garfunkel, KC and the Sunshine Band, and Jimi Hendrix. The music fits perfectly to the time frame of the film and gives people a feeling that this could have actually been part of our history. Some of these tracks work in a similar way to the library scene in Seven, with the music having an odd but surprisingly suitable effect on the scene in question. One example is when the comedian is taking the law into his own hands and engaging with a crowd of protesters. The soundtrack is I'm Your Boogeyman, and while this disco song is referring to someone who is the life of the party and knows how to get down, the use of it in this scene could be a reflection of the comedian's character and be referring to the monster used to scare little children. While this is probably only something that would be discovered when someone went looking for it, the song still contrasts an upbeat melody and tone to what should be a dark and gritty scene. The opening scene of the film has another interesting choice of music, Unforgettable, performed by Nat King Cole, which is a man singing about a woman who is unforgettable. This can be related to how the scene is constantly referred to throughout the film and is where the plot started, making this an unforgettable moment for the story. This could also be recalled later in the film when the killer states that he makes himself feel every murder in his ironic goal to save mankind, meaning that everyone he kills is unforgettable to him.
It's incredible that someone so unforgettable thinks that I am unforgettable too.
What I also like about this scene and its use of sound is how every little thing is enhanced, whether it be the assassin fixing his gloves or the mug shattering against the door. This, accompanied with the slow motion in the scene, really brings the audience into the situation and allows their mind to become adjusted to being able to pick up every little detail in the situation. Now I would just like to talk about some of the sound effects and manipulation used throughout the film. Dr. Manhattan's voice is changed to help show how he is not like any other human. And while only a slight change, the minor echo and the way he speaks with no emotion gives him an almost godly presence within any scene.
You know why I'm here?
Yes. But you're going to leave disappointed.
Rorschach.
This just shows how important sound is in what may seem the simplest areas of film. Another example of how a character's voice can change the impact that they have in a film can be seen with The Dark Knight Rises and the character Bane. In the original trailer, fans complained about how some of the speech was difficult to understand. This was rectified with a very notable change.
We will destroy Gotham. And then, when it is done, and Gotham is ashes, then you have my permission to die.
This both pleased audiences and also made it so that Bane could be understood, which is another element of immersion which is a reoccurring issue with sound. While video games are often counted irrelevant in the area of film studies, I feel that games have become extremely compelling in both story and mirroring cinematic design to that of movie standard. So I think that some games deserve to be observed in a similar way to film. This also includes how they use sound. This includes my first example, Mass Effect 3, which arguably has one of the best soundtracks in both gaming and the film world. The example I would like to give of this game and the impact of its score is from the game's opening mission, where Earth is being attacked by a race of machines called the Reapers. The track in this clip is named Leaving Earth. Obviously the scene is very dramatic, but I feel that the score heightens its effect. The music starts all serenading and calm, which is surprising as Earth is being destroyed. However, the tone becomes much darker when the fate of the child's life is in question and the threat becomes apparent. I feel that the sudden change in the tone is a metaphor for the innocence of this child being wiped out by the power of this great machine. This doesn't only allow the player to see how Shepard must be feeling, but also brings the same emotions to themselves, as they are connected more to the story as they are the character and not just looking from the outside. This is again explored in my second game example from Gears of War 3 and the death of your partner and friend, Dom. This scene features an instrumental version of Gary Jules' adaptation of Mad World, and the song fits the moment perfectly for several reasons. The first and most obvious being because it slows down the scene, so that you can really feel and see the emotion in the characters, but also because the song was used in the original trailer for the first game, and now to hear it again in such a sad moment years later makes the audience remember how far they have come with Dom, and now losing him just shows how mad the world really is. While we have only really explored such a small area of film, we have looked at and explained the relationship between sound and picture. And just like how special effects are at their best when not seen, sound is at its best when not heard. I do hope that you enjoyed this commentary and didn't think that it was just an earache.
Ah!